Hey guys, welcome to the channel. For today's creation, I went ahead and created the base of this amigurumi off camera. I made some changes from my usual approach, but honestly I wish I hadn't. I made her legs a lot thinner, which in hindsight was a bit of a mistake as it took me an age to get the wire positioned. I had to fight with it so much I honestly considered dropping the whole project entirely, but then I thought, well, that's what creativity is all about. Plus, how could I deprive you all of the end result? See, now you have to stick around to see it. But honestly, trying new things is important, even though sometimes it might not work out. I think as long as you learn from the mistakes you make, you shouldn't be afraid to make them, as you can only grow from them. Using this charcoal grey yarn, I started on the skirt. Oh, I didn't even tell you what I was making, did I? Well, if the thumbnail didn't already spoil it for you, this will be Yumeko Jabami from the anime Kakegurui, which translates as compulsive gambler. Without dropping any spoilers, this anime is set in an elite school. I mean, it's always an elite school, right? Well, all the students come from Japan's most wealthy and influential families. The student hierarchy is determined through high-stakes gambling instead of academic performance. And if a student loses too much and can't repay their debts, they basically end up as the class pet and get a tag that says as much. The story follows Yumeko as she works her way through the school's pecking order and tries to break the system. Not necessarily because she wants to, but just because she can. Anyway, who doesn't appreciate a female protagonist who does things because? But back to the skirt. Once attached, I just crocheted around, keeping close to the body and flaring it out towards the end. Okay, now it's time to fake collars again. I've done this feature several times and will likely continue to do so. I just think it's the best way to give an impression of layers of clothing without actually making all those layers. I simply crocheted a strip to go around the neck, and after sewing it in, it does look like a collar. I then used the thinnest black ribbon I have and attached on a tiny bead in the middle to make her necktie thingy. Yes, that is what it's called, it's a necktie thingy. Next, I returned to the shoes, where I added the tongues to the top of each one. I just crocheted little squares and attached them on afterwards, so there's nothing really special here. Yumeko has long straight hair with a layered fringe, and I considered doing this with a yarn wig, but I really couldn't find the strength or even enthusiasm that would be needed to go with the amount of gluing, brushing and drying time that would actually be involved. I mean, I've only given myself 2 weeks to finish these projects, and some actually take much longer. With each project, I also have to consider the time it will take to do the editing and voiceover, and since I live in noisy London, it can be a challenge to get some quality quiet time to do the recording. It can actually be quite tight getting these videos done in time. Other YouTubers, you have my utmost respect. But essentially, what I'm saying is, I'm not about to complicate a project needlessly. I usually work on multiple projects at a time, so unless I've started to make a wig cap several weeks in advance, then unfortunately it's not in the cards. And so I opted for what I usually do and crocheted the hair. Once I had that completed, I sewed it on off camera. The jacket is definitely my favourite piece in this entire project. I kept the amigurumi close by to do regular fit tests, and since I don't have patterns for everything I make, and each jacket I make is always different and needs to be custom fit to that specific amigurumi, I actually tried on the jacket I made for my Queen Elizabeth doll months ago on Yumeko, and it doesn't actually fit, which is amazing. I'm really amazed by that. So I started making the jacket from the top to the bottom, and starting at the neck, I worked my way down, leaving holes for the sleeves that I would crochet later on. For some reason, I did the black trim around the jacket first before I did the sleeves, and I can't for the life of me remember why. Okay, full disclosure, I did film this way back in April, and this video was meant to go out in May. But I had some issues with getting the right shrink plastic that would work with my printer, and you'll see the reason for this soon. I ordered shrink plastic, but boy oh boy did my printer hate all of them. So after 2 failed order attempts, I put this project on hold to do more research and rethink how I would do the pet tag. But that means I just can't recall what was going through my head at that moment in time. Oh well. I added some snap fasteners for the jacket and some Ato golden beads to act as the button details. I then also surface crocheted the pockets. I finally got my hands on the right kind of shrink plastic that my printer was happy with at the beginning of June. Turns out that you really have to read the product details carefully, as only a few are actually printable. The problem I was also having was due to the plastic being too smooth and the paper tray feeder just couldn't grip it properly for printing. I also had an issue with a different supply that turned out to just be too thick. Either way, it was a bit of a headache, but I really didn't want to hand draw this at all. Okay, true, I could have printed a paper version and stuck it onto a piece of card or something, but I had an idea in mind and I wanted to make it work. Incidentally, the shrink plastic arrived in time for my Pride amigurumi, and that worked marvelously. I ended up printing the tag in 3 different sizes to see what they would shrink to. I printed a 2 inch, a 1.5 inch and a 1 inch. I punched the holes in them before placing them in the oven to shrink. Although they all shrunk pretty well, I particularly liked the size of the 1 inch tag and decided to use that. I then used my no wipe top coat and cured it under the UV lamp. After that, it was just a matter of adding the jump ring and some ball and chain to finish off the look. And with that, guys, it's done. I'm so happy to have this project finally complete, not just with how she turned out, but also just the sense of sheer relief. It took a while, and looking at her sat in a box unfinished was beginning to annoy me slightly. But I love her so much, especially the jacket and the little pet tag. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, if you've made it this far, please like, share, comment, and even consider subscribing if you like the content I create. Don't forget to hit that bell button to be notified whenever I upload a new video. And now there's nothing left to do but to position the camera, roll the dice, and place your bets on the beauty shots. See you in the next one. Bye!